Welcome to the Etihad Cargo Connections with Turn Furlongs magazine. I'm your host today, Aurelian Drumian. So today we are honored to have Dean Lavy, or Lavy, should I pronounce Lavy? Lavy, with us, a seasoned breeder with over 37 years of dedication to Arabian horses. His enduring passion for breeding has propelled him through decades of changes and challenges in the equestrian world. In this interview, we'll look into Dean's remarkable journey, the secrets behind Al Shahania Farm's consistent success, and his vision for the future of Arabian horse breeding. So, Dean, great to have you here today.
Thank you very much.
So, you've been breeding Arabian horses, like I just said, for over 37 years. What is it that keeps you going for such a sustained period?
Well, not all of that time was strictly Arabian. Some of that time, the earlier days, was thoroughbreds when I was in Kentucky. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's the competition, it's the challenge. You always got to look to do new things, be creative, and at the end of the day, you want to win. And then there's always the passion for the horses. This is what I think. This is what drives most of us, anyways. The love and the passion for the animals. In this world, it's a very unique industry. So I think that's what keeps you going.
Excellent. How did you get into horses or the industry?
Well, it started to be honest, when I was in like 16 years old. My family moved from Michigan in the United States to Kentucky, which is all horses. And as you know, summertime jobs and stuff, most of my friends were working with horses. I always had a love for the outdoors, period, for animals. And so I started working with horses, and you get hooked on it, and then it started from there. At about the age of 15, 16, I started.
Okay. Wow, that's very young, actually.
Yes.
So, Dean, you must have seen a lot of changes during this time. What has been the most significant?
I think the Arabian, especially even in the last 10 years, there's been a significant change. Competition, a lot more owners. The races have become bigger, especially in the Middle East with Saudi, Bahrain, Oman, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. I mean, the racing there is huge. And of course, this is kind of the birthplace of the Arabian horses,
Sure.
And but the French racing is fantastic. I think competition has changed a lot. That's the biggest change I've seen, and a lot more owners involved. If you go back 10 years ago, especially like here in Doha, it was Al Shahania stud, his brother Umkarn, and maybe Sheikh Johan with Al Shakab. There wasn't a lot of people around, or they were very, very small. Now it's extremely challenging, and there's so many more people involved. So I think that's a big change.
In a good way?
In a very good way. Yes, competition's good. Sometimes it, takes away from us winning, but that's what the industry needs. You got to have more people involved. You need fresh blood all the time. That's what keeps it going.
Definitely.
Yes.
So you mentioned Al Shahania's farm. How are things going there?
Very good. We continue to develop it. It's an ongoing thing. I'm there as the director, so I'm a little bit involved with a little bit of everything, not just strictly horses. We construction, pasture management. We just put in a new dirt track. We just put in a new turf track. You're always evolving and changing, and you got to keep up with the times. So the farm continues to grow. Sheikh Mohammed's been very generous in allowing us to continue to develop the property. I think we're very unique in Qatar with a lot of grass paddocks that most places don't have. I've added a lot of grass paddocks. I think it's important for the horses to be able to go out, and have a little bit of a go for a run, get some concussion. We obviously can't simulate the weather conditions of Europe or America or something like this, which makes it very difficult here. The climate is a difficult thing here for raising horses.
Excellent. So you mentioned some of the changes and some of the differences you have compared to other places. Would you say this is what makes Al Shahania Stud and yourself so successful at producing, you know, plenty of winners over the past years.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Sheikh Mohammed obviously got involved in it very early, going back to like the early 80s, 81. You know, he was, I believe, he was one of the very first people to bring the Arabian racing to Doha. And so he's got a very nice, obviously, broodmare band, which helps a lot. The Arabian breed in general for racing is very niche. You know, it's a pretty small, when you talk about thoroughbreds, it's massive, you know, all over the world. But really, the Arabian horses, there's quite a few everywhere. But the key pedigrees, you know, are French and Middle Eastern.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of a small thing. So he's always had a nice breedings, and you know, at the end of the day too, it's about your team. You got to have a team. It's all here. It's not one or two people. It's the guys that cut the grass, that have to work with the mares and foals. I mean, if we don't have babies, we don't have racehorses. And so for me, the key thing is involving everybody and making everybody a team. And I think that gives us success as well. When everybody's happy, it makes it a better place.
Sure. Excellent. To go back a little bit to your early age, did you
Yes.
know from that young that you could be onto a winner with a horse? And if so, what would you be looking for in that horse?
Well, I mean, there's things you look for obviously when they're young. You know, conformation is huge. You know, you see the shoulder angles, the hip angles, the bone structure, whether they're correct or not, if they have a nice walk, all those things are there at an early age. And obviously things can change. A lot of times there's the horse you don't think has any potential, and a year later he's the best horse you can see. They're very humbling creatures for us. So this is what they do to us. But yeah, I think a lot of the, you know, the ones that are nice, they're born pretty nice and they always strike your eye initially. But then being an athlete's a different thing. I mean, we have lots of very good looking horses that can't run, you know, or they're not fast enough. But typically the best ones, you know, some of the champions that I've been lucky enough to be around,
Mhm.
they look the part from when they're born to the end. I mean, they have a certain look. They have the look of a champion.
Wow. Wow. Very good.
Yes.
Dean, without giving too many of your secrets, what factors contribute to a successful breeding program?
Uh, Pedigree is very important. I think, you know, I spoke briefly about the thoroughbreds being such a huge market. And obviously pedigree is important there too, but it's so vast. You can get a lot of outcross type breedings that work and are successful in thoroughbreds. You don't see that much with the Arabians. I mean, the best race horses in the Arabians usually are good family lineage. That holds true to most of them. And so, you know, it's always evaluating what you've got. It depends on what kind of racing you want to do. You know, Doha is different than Europe. The racing style is different, although that's changed quite a bit in the last 3 or 4 years. There's a lot more speed involved now. Even in France, we're seeing much more speed injected into the racing. So you got to kind of keep up with the times. And you know, we like to use proven horses. We want to keep proven brood mares. We want to use proven stallions the best we can. I think that's a key. Success is you know, you got to go with what works. If you branch out and try too many wild things, you know, it doesn't work. But you do have to try some different outcross things too to experiment a little bit as well. But majority, we stick to a good plan, and we try to breed the best.
Excellent. Does that make it difficult to acquire new Arabian horses with competition?
Yes, it does. Like I said, it's very small. For
Mhm.
me right now, there's probably 4 to 5 stallions that we would use in Europe. And then we have our own, of course, that we try to support. And so we give a number of mares to those. But, you know, if we're breeding 70 mares, we're probably only going to use 8 or 10 sires. You know, that's how small it is, you know, for us. A lot of people, there's obviously quite a few more sires than that, obviously. But again, we go back to the proven uh, percentage, and, you know, that's what works for us.
Okay, very good. Let's talk a little bit about clients, your biggest clients. So, Dean, when it comes to Alshania's biggest clients, including yourself, is everyone do you think looking for the same thing, or do the requirements differ? Let's say, for example, would an owner from Deauville be looking for something different than someone or than an owner from Dubai?
Yes. A lot of that's probably dictated by where your horses are going to be based. But if you're speaking about someone based in France, it's going to stay in France and race in France. The French style running is much different. Although I did say earlier, I see the speed has changed. But a lot of horses, not a lot of horses run on the soft, and then can run on the hard and the fast too. And the Middle East is hard and fast. We have a lot more sand, dirt racing here. That's pretty rare in France. Maybe at Pau, you have the poly track available for the winter racing and things, but there's not a lot of poly tracks there for the Arabians. So yeah, a lot of it's would dictate, you know, horses being born in France, I think have an advantage. I think seeing the four seasons, the nutritional values in the grass, it's an easier environment, a more nutritional environment to raise a horse. It's difficult in the Middle East. So a lot of it depends on where the owner wants to be based and where he wants to run.
Okay.
So yes, it could be totally different. And then even picking what kind of sires you breed to, because if you want dirt horses or sand horses, it's totally different than the grass horses usually.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
What are your plans, Dean, or goals for this season, and how do you envisage achieving those goals?
Well, we keep going. We're always regrouping. We never stop and rest. We're always looking for new ways to improve and evolve. And we've gone through a little bit of a change. We changed trainers a couple of years ago. Julian Smart was with us for a long period of time, and now his assistant, Rudy Newborn, is with us, doing a great job. He's a young guy, learning the process here, and and we've restructured our breeding a little bit. Again, I mentioned the ejection of speed
Mhm.
has become a huge factor, and a lot of our horses were classic distance horses, like 2,400 meters, over 2,000 meters, and now we're seeing you got to have some speed injected to that. And so, it's just I think we've got some nice horses coming. We're in a bit of a regroup stage right now, but last year was better than the year before. This year's better than last year. And we've got some nice horses coming up, and we got a couple older horses that are going to run next week, actually, here in Doha, that are very nice horses that haven't run for quite a while, that have been off the radar. And so, yeah, we're hoping for a little bit of luck next week, and a couple very, very nice horses jump up.
Are you able to mention which of the horses are going to?
Yeah, sure. One filly is Divine Princess, who she ran last year. She's the sister to Lady Princess, very well bred by Amber. Showed some. She actually had an injury that set her back for about a year, and we brought her back very slowly. I only gave her a couple runs last year, but she was very impressive. So we're expecting more out of her this year. We've taken our time with her. The season began in October. She's going to get her first go next month,
Okay.
which is next week, actually. She runs on the 4th in Sheikh Abdullah. And, we're not going to push her first race out, but idea would be another race before the Amir Sword weekend. So that would be her third run, and we expect her to be fully ready by then. And so, yeah. And then the other horse is an oldie but a goodie too, is Methgal, who's been off the charts for 2 years.
Wow.
He unfortunately had an injury, and then he had a colic surgery, but he's come back very good. Hasn't raced for 2 years, but he's a multiple international winner, Qatar international winner, won in Newbury in England. He's a nice horse. He's a miler. He's not a long distance horse, but he'll run next week as well. And the classic horses are always good. They may fade a little bit, but they're always tough. And so, yeah, we have high expectations for them, and fingers crossed.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
So you began breeding horses in Kentucky, like you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier. Are there many differences to how things are done there compared to Qatar and Al Shahania?
I, I think the biggest thing, to be honest, is the horses are raised pretty similar. I mean, you want to treat them, you feed them, you raise them, you handle them. very similar, the training's very similar process. I think a big thing here is the climate, the climate conditions, Kentucky, the one field you could put our whole farm on, and Doha,
Can you imagine?
so the availability of pasture. I think the Four Seasons is fantastic for a horse to experience all the different weather conditions. I think it makes them hard and tough, and having the room to run and get strong naturally from the time they're born until you start the training process. But other than that, I mean, and the climate's difficult here. It's very difficult. Um, that's why I said again, we've done so many grass paddocks, but there's a period of time for about 5 months you got to turn them out in the dark at night.
Wow.
They're in AC a lot, and so the environment's it's a big challenge. That's the
Mm.
biggest challenge.
Can be very challenging, I can imagine.
Yes, yes.
When you look back at your career, what horses stand out the most for you?
I'll go back to a thoroughbred like back into the mid 90s. I loved as a baby, and then he turned out to be a very nice horse. He was a special horse. He had such a great personality. His name is Fantastic Light. He was by a stallion named Rahi, uh, and out of a mare named Jude. This goes back to the Maktums when I worked for the Maktoum family. But then he turned out to be a 6-time Group 1 winner, and he was my pick of all the horses that year. We had like 60 yearlings, and he had such a great personality too, and he made him pretty special. And then he turned out to be a very good horse. And then fairly recently would be Ibras with the Arabians.
Okay.
Triple Crown winner, in 2019. He completed that. He won the Amir Sword 3 times. I mean, you don't get associated with a horse like that very often. And I may never again. I hope I do.
I hope you do as
But
well.
so far, he's been one of a kind. He's been the only one to win the Triple Crown. It's been challenged on several occasions. It'll be challenged again here in Doha in 2 months because Al Gadir uh, has won the first 2 legs, in Goodwood, and then October at Longchamp. So then he'll come here as a favorite. So hopefully it'll either be us or somebody else knock him off. So we keep our streak going on that. But a Triple Crown is pretty special. 3 different countries, 3 different distances in racing. Obviously the conditions are different, and over a 7-month period of time makes an amazing animal. So they don't come around too often. So that's a special one to me.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah.
And what's your proudest moment in whole your career?
Now, I mean, just being where I'm at, I mean, this is obviously for me, it's the pinnacle of the industry, I've been very lucky. Um, and it's just like I said, it's a very unique industry. Anywhere you go in the world, you know somebody. If you go to any horse racing event, you go to any sale, it's like you're going to Kentucky, or you're going to California, or you're going to France. I mean, everybody's, and it makes it really, it's a small special community, and so it's a very, very unique industry. And I think that's the highlight for me, is just being able to, blessed to have been in this industry.
That's amazing, like connection, like a big family.
Yes, it is very much so.
Wow,
And people tend to help you no matter where you're at. I know people all over the world. You can give them a call, and they'll jump to help you out. As long as you have that kind of relationship with them.
that's great. That's great.
Yes.
That's what we're looking for actually in life in general.
Yeah. Of course. Of
Connections.
course. Yes. Thank you.
Very good. What would be a typical day for you?
Getting up fairly early, 5 a.m., get out of bed. I usually leave the house about 6 a.m. here. I get to the farm. It's about 40-minute drive for me to the farm. Horses come out at the farm. The race horses come out every morning about 5 a.m. So I can get there when they're kind of in the middle of their works. I see the trainers. They usually come in and talk to me. After the works every day, we sit and have a meeting, how things are going, what we're going to do, plan the racing for that week. And then obviously we're a full operation there. We breed, raise the horses, train the horses, and race the horses out of Doha. And then also Doha is the hub for all of our horses around the world. So everything comes to our office, our farm in France as well. So, just sitting, keeping up with everything. Like I said, we're a good team. We're all in one building. We sit and, sit down personally with everybody every day, from the HR to the IT to the marketing, the breeding, my assistant, training. So that's just that's it. And then, like I said, I'm a little bit of everything. I'm coming a plumber, an electrician, an HR, a finance, breeding, racing. That's what makes the job pretty interesting. And I can sit at the desk, or I can get up and walk down the stairs and go outside and look at beautiful horses on a farm. So that makes it nice.
I'm sure those past experiences helps you overviewing everything, more or less.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Right.
Yes.
Now I'd like to talk to you about your future. What does it hold
Okay.
for yourself?
Well, I'm 60, so I've had a very good run. Like I said, been blessed to get here like this. And I'm like obviously got a few more years left in, and I want to maintain doing it. I think in a couple years I'd like to slow down a little bit, but still stay involved. I'd love to consult and do it for the rest of my life. As long as I'm healthy and can and able to do it. But yeah, just keep going. Right now I'm happy. I don't want any change. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I think it's a fantastic spot. Working so closely with Sheikh Mohammed's been a fantastic opportunity for me for the last 12, 13 years. And so I'm in a good spot. I'm happy. And I've been, like I said, again, I go back to, I've been very lucky too. And it's worked out for me. So just keep going. That's what I wanted. That's my future.
Excellent. Would you have any plan to go back to Kentucky at some point? Let's say in
Yes.
20 years or 25 years? Or
For sure, I will. That's
no.
my home. It's home. It's home, and it always will be. I love Doha. I love being able to travel the world. From here, I've seen a part of the world I wouldn't have probably seen from America, and so I enjoy that. Me and my wife are here, and she loves it here because the sun shines every day. So, uh, and yeah, it definitely will go home. I still have family there. My mother's still alive. I got brothers. I got a brother. I got a couple sisters, nieces, nephews. Obviously, a lot of very good friends. And yes, it'll
Everyone,
always be my home at the end of the day. Yes.
I can understand. I can understand.
Yes.
And finally, on to the last question. So what does the
Okay.
future hold for Al Shahina's farm?
Well, I mean, it keeps going. I mean, Sheikh Mohammed, we're the same age. He's very driven, passionate. Obviously, what he's created and done over the years. His daughters are very interested. His daughters all have colors. So he's got three younger girls, and they all have their silks. They all have horses in their names in France and Doha. And a couple of them are very into it. They've started riding horses. And so, that's what you hope is that the family continues on. You see a lot of, unfortunately, big iconic operations, over the years get to a point where there's nobody wants to carry on with it. And I hope that's never the case for Shania or for Sheikh Mohammed. And it seems like the family interest is there, and so hopefully it'll continue on for forever.
Just one last question I'm very curious about.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the younger generation, since you mentioned it, like getting into the horse industry itself?
You know, you I don't worry about it at all in the Middle East.
Okay.
Um, Other than, there's a couple examples of that. You look at which is very good too. It's like Shadwell Farm
Mhm.
from the obviously Sheikh Hamdan Al Maktoum. Now his daughter's jumped up and doing pretty good job with that. Um, Gainsborough was a bit different for the Maktoums. Sheikh Mohammed kind of took over everything there. You got a lot of big farms, but I just hope that the younger generation stays involved. You always wonder, are they driven for this? Will they keep going? That's the thing. But in the Middle East, the young guys are really into it. I
Mm.
mean, everywhere I see, whether that's Bahrain, Saudi, Oman, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Qatar, I mean, they're at the races as little tiny kids, and they want to be owners, they want to be trainers. And you see some of that in Europe and some of that in America, but not nearly like you do in the Middle East. So you always hope that with some of these big operations that the family continues the tradition.
Sure, sure. It seems a little bit more difficult in the US or in Australia or in
Yes,
Sure.
yes, it is. It is. Yes.
Excellent, Dean. Thank you so much for the
No
interview.
problem. It was very good to talk to you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Anytime.